When people think about career advice, they often expect a magic formula. They want a single sentence that unlocks everything. Something like, follow your passion, or never quit, or network harder. And while all of that might sound nice on a coffee mug, it doesn't really get you very far in real life. What I'm about to share with you isn't just advice. It's a truth I've learned watching people succeed, fail, and rebuild at the highest levels. The kind of advice that professors at Harvard Business School drill into their students. The kind of advice that most people overlook because it feels too simple. And it's this: your career is not about climbing a ladder. It's about building a runway. Think about that for a second. Most people treat their career like a ladder. One step after another. One promotion after another. You climb, and eventually you hope to reach the top. But what happens when the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall? What happens when you realize halfway up that you don't even want to be where you're headed? You get stuck. You get trapped by your own success. That's why the smartest people, the most fulfilled people, the ones who actually win in the long run, they don't build ladders, they build runways. A ladder locks you into one direction. A runway gives you options. Here's the truth: your career isn't a single path. It's a series of takeoffs. You get one job and it teaches you something. You build skills. You build relationships. You build confidence. That job isn't the destination. It's the runway that lets you take off into the next opportunity. And then that opportunity gives you another runway. And on and on. The difference is huge, because when you think runway, you stop asking, what's the next rung on the ladder? And start asking, what can I launch from here? And this matters because the world is changing faster than ever before. The job you think is secure today may not even exist in 5 years. Whole industries rise and fall in a single decade. If you're just climbing a ladder, you're in trouble when the ladder breaks. But if you're building runways, you're never stuck. You always have somewhere else to launch. Let me tell you something Harvard professors tell their MBA students. The single most important career decision you'll ever make isn't your first job or even your second. It's your mindset. Because your mindset shapes how you see every opportunity. If you're chasing prestige, titles, or salaries alone, you're climbing ladders. But if you're chasing growth, skills, relationships, you're building runways. And runways take you further than ladders ever will. Now let's get real. Early in your career, you will be tempted to chase money. Everyone does it. You'll see a job offer with a bigger paycheck and think, that's the one. But here's the danger: if money is your only filter, you'll keep trading your time for dollars without ever thinking about the future takeoff. And then one day, you'll look back and realize you've built nothing but a paycheck. Money is important, don't get me wrong, but money without momentum is a trap. What you want is leverage. You want skills that compound. You want relationships that open doors years from now. You want experiences that give you confidence in any room. That's the runway. Think about the most successful people you know. They didn't just take one job and stay there forever. They moved. They shifted. They launched. Sometimes they even took a step back financially to position themselves for something bigger down the road, because they understood that the real currency in a career is not dollars. It's direction. It's freedom. It's the ability to choose. Now, let me share something that might surprise you. The single most underrated skill in building your career isn't technical expertise. It isn't IQ. It isn't even leadership in the traditional sense. It's the ability to communicate. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you can't explain your ideas, if you can't persuade others, if you can't listen deeply, your runway shrinks. Harvard teaches this relentlessly. Every case study, every presentation, every class, it's about communication. Why? Because opportunities don't just come to the most qualified, they come to the most understood. If people don't get you, they don't bet on you. And here's another layer to it. People overestimate what a degree or a job title will do for them, and they underestimate what relationships will do. Your relationships are the fuel for your runway. The people you connect with today may be the very ones who open doors tomorrow. Not because you networked in some fake, transactional way, but because you built trust. You showed up, you cared, people remember that, and when your name comes up in a room you're not in, that's when your runway extends further than you could ever build alone. But let me warn you, building a runway means being intentional. It means sometimes saying no to what looks good in the short term so you can say yes to what's better in the long term. It means asking yourself not how high can I climb this year, but what can I learn this year that I can launch from for the next decade? That's a completely different question, and it changes everything. So here's the challenge. If you're in a job right now and you're feeling stuck, stop thinking about the next promotion. Stop staring at the ladder. Start asking, what skills am I building? Who am I connecting with? How am I positioning myself to take off from here? Because when you do that, suddenly the pressure lifts. You stop worrying about being trapped. You start seeing possibilities. I'll give you an example. Imagine someone working in sales. On the surface, they're just selling products. But if they look deeper, they might realize they're building persuasion skills. They're learning how to understand customers. They're practicing negotiation. Those skills aren't just valuable in sales. They're valuable in leadership, in entrepreneurship, in consulting, in almost anything. That sales job isn't a ladder rung. It's a runway. It can launch them into dozens of other fields. That's the shift. That's the advice you'll never forget once you truly get it. Don't just work for a paycheck. Don't just work for a title. Work for the runway. Work for what this experience allows you to launch into next. Now, I want to speak directly to the doubt you might be feeling. Maybe you're thinking, that's easy to say when you've got options, but I don't. Listen to me carefully. You always have a runway. It might be shorter than you'd like. It might be harder to see, but it's there. Even in a tough job, even in a place you don't want to be, you are learning. You are developing resilience. You are discovering what you don't want, and that clarity is valuable. Don't waste it. Every moment can be fuel for your next takeoff if you choose to see it that way. And here's the kicker: building runways is not just about careers, it's about life. Every relationship, every skill, every choice can either be a dead end or a launch pad. You decide. And the people who go the furthest, the ones you admire, the ones who make it look effortless. They're not climbing ladders. They're running down runways, taking off, landing, and taking off again. Over and over. That's why they're free. That's why they're fulfilled. So if you remember nothing else, remember this: your career is not about reaching the top. It's about never being stuck at the bottom. It's about building enough runways that you always have a next step, a next launch, a next opportunity. That's the most important career advice you'll ever hear, not just from me, not just from Harvard, but from anyone who's ever lived long enough to realize that ladders run out, but runways go on forever. And if you're listening to this right now, you've got a choice to make. You can keep climbing the wrong ladder, or you can start building your runway. One skill, one relationship, one choice at a time. Because the moment you do, everything changes. Your future opens up. Your career stops being a trap and starts being a runway to anywhere you want to go. So now you understand the big shift. Stop climbing ladders, start building runways. That's the foundation. But let's go deeper, because knowing the truth isn't enough. You've got to live it. You've got to practice it. And let me tell you, most people never do. Most people hear great advice, nod their head, feel inspired for 5 minutes, and then go right back to doing exactly what they were doing before. That's why change is rare. That's why success is rare. If you're serious about building a runway, you've got to treat your career like an investment portfolio. You don't put all your money in one stock and hope it never crashes. No, you diversify, you prepare, you build safety nets. Same with your career. The best runways are built with 3 things: skills, relationships, and reputation. Skills are what you know. Relationships are who you know. Reputation is what people know about you. And here's the catch: you control all 3 more than you think. Let's start with skills. Too many people stop learning the moment they get a job. They think, I've got the degree, I've got the role, I'm set. Wrong. That's just the beginning. The world doesn't stand still, and if you do, you fall behind. Harvard teaches its students one thing: above all, learn how to learn. Because the skill that never expires is adaptability. If you can pick up new skills quickly, you'll always have a runway. So ask yourself, what skills am I building right now that I could take anywhere? Maybe it's communication. Maybe it's project management. Maybe it's leadership, problem solving, negotiation, or technical expertise. But here's the twist. You can't just collect skills like souvenirs. You have to stack them, one skill on top of another. That's how you create unfair advantage. Think about it. Lots of people know how to code. Lots of people know how to sell. Lots of people know how to lead, but how many people can code, sell, and lead? That's rare. That's valuable. That's a runway. Now, skills without relationships are like engines with no fuel. You can be brilliant, but if no one knows you, if no one trusts you, your runway is short. And I'm not talking about networking in the cheesy way, passing out business cards, adding strangers on LinkedIn, or pretending to care just to get something. I mean real relationships, genuine ones, the kind where you give before you take, the kind where you show up consistently, where you invest in people not because of what they can do for you today, but because you value who they are. That's what pays off. You never know when one conversation, one introduction, one person believing in you will change the trajectory of your life. And here's the beauty. Relationships compound. The longer you invest in them, the more valuable they become. I've seen people land opportunities they never dreamed of simply because someone remembered their name, their character, their work ethic. That's the runway relationships give you. But the glue that holds it all together is reputation. And reputation is simply this, what people say about you when you're not in the room. You don't control it completely, but you shape it with every action, every word, every follow through. Your reputation is built in the small things, showing up on time, keeping promises, delivering more than expected, treating people with respect. Those things matter more than you think. Because when opportunities are being discussed, your reputation speaks louder than your resume. Now let me pause here and make something very clear. Building a runway is not about hustling endlessly, burning out, or trying to be everything to everyone. It's about being strategic. It's about being intentional. It's about asking yourself, where do I want this runway to take me? Because if you don't decide, someone else will. If you don't set the direction, you'll end up being used for someone else's runway. That's not freedom. That's servitude. So here's what you do. Create your own career compass. Don't overcomplicate it. Just ask yourself 3 questions. 1, what do I value most? 2, what am I good at or willing to get good at? 3, what impact do I want to make? Those 3 answers form your compass. They give you clarity. And once you have clarity, every decision gets easier. You stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, does this align with my runway? Let me give you an example. Imagine you're offered a promotion, more money, bigger title. On the surface, it looks amazing. But when you check your compass, you realize the role doesn't align with your values. It doesn't grow the skills you care about, and it doesn't take you closer to the impact you want to make. Suddenly, the decision is clear. You say no, not because you're scared, but because you're strategic. That's how people build powerful careers, by saying yes to alignment, not just advancement. But let's be real, saying no is hard, especially when everyone around you is saying yes. Especially when the world tells you success is about climbing as high and fast as possible. That's when you need courage. And courage comes from knowing who you are and where you're headed. When you have a runway mindset, you stop being desperate for every opportunity because you know more opportunities will come. You know you're building something sustainable. That's freedom. Now, I want to talk about failure because no career advice is complete without it. Failure is not the end of your runway. It's part of it. In fact, some of your best launches will come from your hardest landings. Think about it. The times you failed, the times you got rejected, the times you felt stuck. Those are the moments that teach you the most. They strip away your ego. They force you to adapt. They clarify what matters. And when you bounce back, you're stronger, smarter, more resilient. Harvard professors tell their students this all the time. Fail fast, fail forward. Don't waste time avoiding failure. Use it to build a longer runway. And here's something powerful: people respect resilience. When they see you fail and get back up, your reputation grows. Your relationships deepen. Your skills sharpen. Failure, when handled right, doesn't shorten your runway. It extends it. So stop fearing it. Stop hiding from it. Start leveraging it. But let's not stop at failure. Let's talk about fear. Because fear is the biggest reason people never build their runway. They stay on ladders because ladders feel safe, predictable, step by step. Runways mean flying. Flying means risk, and risk feels scary. But let me tell you something. The bigger risk is staying grounded. The bigger risk is climbing the wrong ladder your whole life and realizing too late that you never launched. Fear keeps people stuck, but courage sets them free. So here's the truth. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to move forward even when you're afraid. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in spite of it. Every time you take a risk, every time you step into the unknown, you stretch your runway. And the more you do it, the less fear controls you. That's how you grow. That's how you soar. Now let me give you a practical tool. I call it the next runway test. Whenever you're faced with a decision, whether to take a new job, learn a new skill, or pursue a new opportunity, ask yourself, will this give me a longer runway? If the answer is yes, it's worth serious consideration. If the answer is no, think twice. Simple, but powerful. And don't misunderstand, sometimes the runway isn't glamorous. Sometimes it looks like hard work, long nights, or tasks no one else wants to do. But if it builds skills, strengthens relationships, or enhances your reputation, it's worth it. Because that unglamorous work today could be the reason you get noticed tomorrow. Could be the reason someone bets on you. Could be the reason your runway takes you further than you ever imagined. So let me bring it home. The most important career advice you'll ever hear isn't about chasing money, titles, or even passion alone. It's about building runways. Runways that give you options. Runways that give you freedom. Runways that let you launch again and again, no matter how the world changes. Because ladders run out, ladders trap you. But runways open up the sky. And if you're listening right now, I want you to realize you don't have to wait for someone to give you permission. You don't need Harvard. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You can start building your runway today. One skill, one relationship, one choice. That's it. Step by step, moment by moment, you're laying the foundation for takeoff. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize it wasn't about the ladders you climbed. It was about the runways you built. It was about the freedom you created. It was about the life you launched into because you had the courage to stop climbing and start flying. That's the advice that changes everything. That's the advice most people will never follow. But if you do, if you truly live it, your career, your future, your life will never be the same